this episode, I schlep into Philadelphia, the place that loves you back, for a socially distanced interview with Mr. Philly himself, Ken Correll. When not rooting for the Eagles, Ken runs one of Fishtown's best pubs. And now, this selfie-taking machine's latest project is taking the city by storm. Join me as I chat with a real human robot. Welcome to No Pants During the Pandemic.
Hi, I'm Kevin Brooks, and this is No Pants During the Pandemic. Today I'm in the Northern Liberties, speaking with Ken Correll from Memphis Tap and Human Robot. Hey Ken, how you doing?
I'm good, Kevin. How about yourself?
I'm doing quite well, thanks. I guess let's start by talking about a little bit about your background. You're originally from Northern Liberties, Fishtown?
Kensington, actually. Kensington, Fishtown border. Yep, I grew up in the neighborhood, went to a little Catholic school called St. Laurentius, and then most famous of Philadelphia high schools, North Catholic, no longer in existence. From there, then went to Ursinus College. Bounced around a little bit, worked in Atlantic City in the restaurant industry, and here I am today. Boom, boom. 30 years later.
After college, you worked around in the industry, and then you started your own catering business?
I did. Actually, I took a few years off, worked on a cellar project, and from there, I answered an ad one day to be a driver for a catering company, and within about a year, I actually owned part of that catering company. Did that up until 2007. We bought Memphis Taproom.
So in 2007, you opened Memphis Taproom with a couple of partners?
2007, we bought it. We bought it on repeal day. It took us, the turnaround was about 4.5, 5 months. We actually opened on the day that Barack Obama won the nomination in Pennsylvania to be the President of the United States in 2008.
Why don't you describe Memphis Taproom to me?
What we try and do is get the freshest, best beer that we can, both local and international. We had a longtime chef whose aspiration was to write a book about roadside food, but also worked at La Quale and a number of five-star restaurants. And he was able to bring those skills together and create a menu at Memphis Taproom. It's just fun, eclectic gastro food. And I used to hate the term gastro food, but today, it kind of fits the mold. People know what it is. Good burgers. We do like a nice fried chicken. We're really well known for our vegan cuisine. We were probably, at the beginning path of Philadelphia in bar vegan cuisine, and it's been great over the years. I've enjoyed it.
One of the things about Philly that I think really makes it stand out, yes, it's a great beer city, but it's actually the pub food in the city of Philadelphia that I think makes the whole scene stand out. Why are so many good places around food-wise?
I don't know. I mean, quite honestly, I look at some place like, a place like Monk's. Tom's at the top of my coaching chain, and Tom really set the bar with not only great eclectic beer selection, but tremendous food and, skill put into the food and care put into the food and freshness brought back to food. Because for the longest time, a lot of pub food was fries that came from the freezer into the fryer. Fish and chips was cod that was in the freezer. And, there was a tradition that came back to Philadelphia of handmade food, handmade great food that's served in a pub atmosphere.
And why did you guys decide to not so much focus on vegan, but really put, vegan and vegetarian food in the forefront?
I think that I formerly had a vegan business in 1999, but that really wasn't as much the forefront as our original chef, Jesse Kimball. Just was forward thinking. And even though he wasn't vegan himself, we recognized that in Philadelphia, there are a ton of vegan people that were being underserved, particularly in the pub environment. There was healthy vegan in a few different places, but we just thought it was an underserved market. And then frankly speaking, it's good for all of us to eat a little bit less meat, eat a little bit less fish, and try and be more sustainable with everything we do.
I will say it was the first beer bar that I went to that I had the vegan food and was just like, this is fantastic.
Stuff's great, like our jackfruit cakes are just amazing. We had, interestingly enough, years ago, we had a diners drive-in and dive shoot. And what really brought them in and made them interested was our coconut club. coconut club made with coconut bacon. And, Guy Fieri was just like enthralled by this whole like concept of coconut bacon. He came in, got the episode. Of course, we went through the whole menu, both meat things and vegetarian things. But, the vegan stuff's really good. Stop by, you'll enjoy it.
Can you describe, the Fishtown area?
Fishtown was a long time working class neighborhood. There are factories, all around, we're sitting on Fifth Street right now. But all around here, you see some of the factories, but in Fishtown, the same thing. Fish factories and row houses and hardworking people. Over the years, in the last 20 years, we've seen a change of people. Kids are moving back into the city. Someone locally in Fishtown, a newspaper asked me for a quote one time. I said, Fishtown, the place that we couldn't wait to get out of, and our kids can't wait to move back into. And I mean that lovingly.
Here's a loaded question. So is gentrification for Fishtown, is it good, is it bad, or is it both?
I sit on both sides of that debate. I certainly think the neighborhood's a great place to hang out, and there's life in the neighborhood, and the schools are coming back, and there are dogs in the neighborhood, and all that wouldn't have happened without gentrification. Well, Fishtown's interesting because you have a good part of the community that never left. So there is this weird dynamic sometime. If you ever want to be entertained, try and get a look at Fishtown is Awesome, New and Old on Facebook, just because there's so many interesting debates about everyday life in today's Fishtown.
Your mom still lives right nearby.
My mom's 87 years old, lives about 4 blocks from the bar. She's a character. She's the mayor of Fishtown, knows every new person that moves in, knows all the old folks, and that's great. Actually, having a sense of proprietorship in the neighborhood. I say terroir, but it's been cool. Like coming back to the neighborhood, and by say that coming back, my parents again, if you've noted, never left. And not only that, but the Memphis Taproom was a bar. It was owned by the Sachin family. It was a Ukrainian family, and Walt was the father, so it was called Walt's. And when I was a kid, that was a place sometimes we go meet like an uncle and get up on the bar and like have a Coca-Cola. So the same bar that sits there today was a bar that I sat on when I was a 10-year-old kid.
That's cool. I didn't know that part. Why don't you describe the actual physical Memphis Tap?
Yeah, it's you come in. It's older, pre-prohibition bar. Front room we get about 13, maybe 14 stools in there. And when we took over, the back room was just basically a pool room. We've converted that to be a dining room. You can see somewhere between 30 and 40 people in there, figuring how we configure it. Just cool. Old brick wall in there. One of the things I love is old maps. So we have a couple old maps in the neighborhood. We have some new stuff. We've done some projects with the McKellar family and Keith Shore, who they're artists. So we have a couple of the McKellar Memphis Taproom posters hanging around. And we also have local artist Keith Greiman, who was one of our original bartenders at anything that you see branded at the Memphis, our mural, paintings inside, postcards, menus, has all been done by Keith. So it's kind of cool too that we have like our own family doing most of the things that we do there.
And then you have, essentially next door, you have the alley, I guess?
Yeah, the beer garden?
Yes.
It was a dirty lot when we took it over, with like trash in there. Beer garden's pretty good size. It's 20 by, I think like 85 or 90. So we have it partially tented, have tables out there, socially distanced tables out there. I've also added some plexiglass out there now because we're in kind of a different time. But it's always been fun. When we first opened the beer garden, we used to have a truck out there where we did canned beer and different kind of funky hot dogs. I came in full time about 3 years ago, and we made a couple little tweaks there. One of the tweaks was you can now have full menu out in the beer garden, and we moved the truck on to a new life. If anyone wants to visit the truck, I think it's up at 1675 Brewery up in Bristol. Distillery. And they've wrapped it and made it their food truck. So it was kind of cool that we could kick it down the line to somebody in the industry to give it further life.
Is there anything general that you'd like to add about Memphis?
No, I think Memphis is a traditional, fun, comfortable place for everybody to be in. I had an old partner, Brendan Hartrandt. Brendan had worked on that place up until I had gone. And what he really tried to build there was a comfortable place with good service and good food, a place that you wanted to come back in and you could kind of call home. He left a few years ago. I have myself and another partner, Paula Decker. And what we've worked on in the last 3.5, 4 years is just to really further hone in on like being a family place. We have regulars in there that were like dying. They were there the last day before we closed with COVID, and they were there the first day we came back. And it's literally like a family there. And it's fun. And I'm talking about not just the staff, but our folks that live in the neighborhood, both new and old.
You have at least a few people that have been around almost since the beginning.
Yeah, we have Deb, who works on the prep area. Deb's been there almost day one. Julie Parshik, who's our manager, who's also married to our new chef, Mike Parshik, has been there, I think, 9 years. Mike's been there 7. I think the preponderance of the staff has been there more than 5 years, and I have a few that are 10 years.
I always call, it's like, to me, it's like the seal of approval when you can go, you, Andy, Tom, Kurt before Notting had closed, Jose's, all of these places, they've got people that have been there virtually since day one.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to their loyalty, but it's also a testament. We all grew up, and again, I'll kind of point out to Tom and like that kind of like what I'll say the coaching chain. You treat people right, you treat people like family, you put them in an opportunity to make money, and then you reinforce their stability, and I think, it works for everybody.
Philadelphia's beer scene, go back 15 years, really ridiculous, in 10 years, ridiculously influenced by imports, which then I think the Philly publicans, returned the favor and wound up starting to go overseas and, travel a lot, whether it be Belgium, Germany, England, and I know you travel quite a bit.
Amsterdam.
What do you think traveling around the country and the world, adds to, the scene and your bars?
I think we have particularly all the places you've cited, there's a little bit of a Euro sensibility, and you've traveled extensively in Europe. Let's talk about Belgium. The traditional bars in Belgium where it's old wood, it's great beer, it's folks that have been coming in there and their families came in there before them. And I think all of that stuff and just the interesting different vintages and things that you can do with different styles we've learned from around the world. And then we've come home and tried to kind of bring them all together in our places. I've traveled pretty extensively in the States, but I love traveling, across Europe and across the world. Actually, I ruined my daughter's life at like 19 years old by taking her to Belgium on one of the trips with, Andy, Tom, a few other folks. Actually, Rachel's first lambic was Armand pouring it out of a ceramic pitcher in his basement, and her making like this kind of like little weird face. And today she blends sour beer.
Cool. I'm sure people have been wondering what all the noise is, and we're basically sitting in your new project, Human Robot.
Human Robot Canning Day. Woo! And we're back here. These babies are going into cans right now. Get yours. Pimping.
Nice.
So Human Robot, Project of Love, I alluded to a little bit earlier. After being taken to Belgium, my older daughter got into the beer industry. So she currently is the head blender for the Rare Barrel in Berkeley. But this is her project on the East Coast, and since she lives and works on the West Coast, I'm kind of her guy here. We have 2 partners, Chris Roller running around back here, and Jake Atkinson. We found the best brewer in the world, a guy named Andrew Foss, and it's been a project of love. It's great.
This was a brewery beforehand, so
it was.
Tell me how that all came about.
Old Brewery was here. They decided they had enough. They were selling. There were rumors around that their greedy developers were going to take it over and going to get rid of the brewery. Friend of a friend bought the building. And we knew somebody said, hey, do you want to rent a brewery? And Jake and I, ears popped up. And we're like, oh, cool. Can we take a look at it? That was March of 2019. So through the next few months, we found another partner, Chris Roller, who was, interestingly enough, my bank manager, biggest beer nerd I knew. He went to school at Seabolt and then had worked at like Imprint and Brewery R's. So he was a great addition to the team as well. But it was cool to have like, a three-headed monster when it came to ownership, and then, me representing kind of Rachel's interest.
So you guys bought the place, and I don't want to say it was a turnkey, but you had...
We didn't buy the place. We leased this place. So we'll be here for the next 6.5 years, something like that. Brew house is behind us. Andrew actually installed the original brew house, so he had worked for the old brewery. He went down and picked up that brew house in South Carolina It was made in Germany, spent some time in Japan and Korea before it went to South Carolina. Then Andrew went down to South Carolina and brought it up here, I guess about 4 or 5 years ago, and installed the brew house. But everything was there. I think we've got like 8 20-barrel fermenters, a few 30-barrel fermenters. There were horizontal lagering tanks that we've kind of flipped into being bright tanks, and we're doing a canning run today, so we're actually canning right out off the horizontals. But for the most part, yeah, it was turnkey. We moved a few things around. Andrew, having had experience here, when he came back here, also had a real good idea of what he wanted to do and how we could utilize the space. I don't know if I alluded to it already, and we were also lucky enough to have a decoction brew house.
Where does the name Human Robot come from?
So Human Robot came to Jake, think about it, I think it comes from a Daft Punk song originally, and he floated the idea. And before Chris, we were kind of tossing around the idea of another partner. We would have meetings with this partner, and they would come up. There's a place across the street, Sunflower Philly, as a park. It'd be Sunflower Philly, it'd be this name and that name, and every time I'd be like, no, we're staying with the Human Robot. One day we were lucky enough to have lunch with Rob Todd in the Memphis Beer Garden. Rob Todd's the founder and owner of Allgash Brewing. And they turned to him. Rob Todd's an interesting guy. I was like, Rob Todd, we're going to open a brewery. What do you think about the name Human Robot? And he did this little Rob Todd thing, kind of looked for a second. It's like, Kenny, I like it. I turned to the other guys and that's the name, Human Robot. RTA, Rob Todd approved. So after that, anyone's like, I don't know if you can call a brewery that, we just shut them down.
So what's the premise behind Human Robot itself?
It's funny, it didn't start with a premise other than a name, but what we learned as we started to figure out what we wanted to do style-wise, hazy beers are hot. Kettle sours are hot, but we have a foundation of loving old school beer. So the human side of beer, we'll talk about is the old foundational beers. A couple crisp pilsners, a German style pilsner, an Italian style pilsner, a traditional cider, a traditional stout. The one thing, again, you kind of can't see this. I don't want to spin around though. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out, the side pull faucets in our Czech program. We thought foundational beers are, having a traditional Czech lager delivered in a Czech style through a Czech faucet. So when we finish here, we're going to have a pull tamave and cheers. And then the robot side is where we can kind of do stupid things, like hazy beers. We have fun doing hazy beers. We actually do them really well. And then, kettle sours. One of my partners, Chris Roller, Robo Wonka is what we gleefully call him, creates every week some kind of fun kettle sour. So it's been a fun project, and it's fun to have great foundational things like this beautiful Pilsner, but also to have the avenues to be able to experiment with some of the fun kind of newer styles and newer things to do.
You're relatively new, but seems like you're quickly carving, a little neighborhood bar vibe.
Yeah, today it's 95 degrees out. If we look out the window, there are people hanging out, standing outside, sitting on the sidewalk, having beers. This is an interesting neighborhood. In and around this part of Kensington is gentrifying pretty quickly. People are moving into old factories, lots of townhomes coming up, and it's a good, fun, vibrant neighborhood. And the cool part about it is it's also being integrated with the older parts of the neighborhood. There are community cleanups, and you have just groups of people that were old neighborhood residents and new neighborhood residents, and Sunflower Philly is an organization, I have everyone look into it. If you got a little money, kind of kick them. But really doing great work in the neighborhood, giving the neighborhood a place to hang out and entertainment and art and music and all these opportunities you might not have in the traditional part of the neighborhood.
That's what you've been posting on Facebook and
Yeah, we post on Facebook. We do community cleanups. We do some support. Our beer garden will be there at some point. It's a great organization. Before you go, check it out. It's beautiful, and they're really cool people. We're also doing an upcoming collab with Tame Arts. If you look across the street, there's all this kind of graffiti art. Tame's the coordinator of all of that art and the art director for that project. So we're doing kind of a can. He's a character named Starfy, so we're doing like a Starfy splash. So it should be a whole lot of fun, kind of a splash with a kind of little Puerto Rican sensibility. Oh, it's amazing, dude. We did an Instagram a couple days ago, just of some of the pieces, and it's really cool because different artists come in, and then when it's their turn, they kind of create a new canvas there, and nobody kind of oversteps by, tagging anybody else's stuff. It's super cool. What we really aim to do here is make great beer that we want to drink, share with our friends, share with our constituents, and give people a place that, they can call home in the neighborhood and just really be, if you're only drink hazy beers, to kind of delve into the Pilsners a little bit, or if you're an old school guy, maybe to delve into the hazies a little bit and you kind of try both styles, the old and the new. Robots and humans, we can live together peacefully.
So you opened mid-February, late February?
We were astute, man. Opened early 2020, February 6th.
Needless to say, a little over a month afterwards, shit hits the fan. What does Human Robot do, at least on March 15th, whatever the day was?
Well, actually, we closed a couple days before we were told to. We looked around our tasting room, and we were open a month, but we were like a new hot brewery, and we were packed. And we realized that we were potentially doing damage. So we decided to kind of close and just sell beer to go until, we thought it would be 3 weeks to a month. Now we're sitting here, it's August 2nd. We're still in the same situation. Philadelphia, there's no inside hanging out. We're lucky enough that the city of Philadelphia has let us to go out onto the street a little bit. And we've been even more lucky to be able to sell like crowers to go. And really the city and the neighborhood have really embraced us and helped us out, helped us survive.
One of the things that I've been loving is that I don't even want to say the Philadelphia community, but I think the Pennsylvania community, the beer fans have been really supporting their local breweries. I'm assuming you've been seeing that with...
Yeah, we've been seeing it. Early on, we started doing some delivery as well, because there were folks that were either immune compromised, just didn't feel comfortable leaving their house. But the support has been overwhelming. It's just been tremendous. People come by the window, they grab some crowers to go. We kick some stuff around, we make some noise, because God damn it, noise is good.
It's all good.
So I'm sorry, no. And, if we look at, we can't really see, but across there, the draft selection, we have the ability right now, we've got 12 things on tap, 4 lagers, 4 hazies, a Robo Latte, which is a Cafe Roasters Vietnamese espresso folded together with an imperial stout, just amazing. We're playing around with our own seltzer and our own cider. So it's been cool to offer people a place to go. Like, I'm looking out the door and I see my friend Matt out there who comes down every week from Reading to buy one of our sour beers and just hang out with his wife. It's been really cool to establish, a group of folks that come here and support us and just really enjoy the experience.
And I'm assuming that, not just the people from Reading, but you're seeing and getting to know your neighbors now too, who are probably popping by for a drink.
Yeah, it's funny. I talked to the guy that's superintendent of the apartments next door about, potentially we're going to probably go outside and whether it bother people. They told me his name's Ernie, and Ernie told me they're all your customers anyway, so I think everybody will enjoy it. So we've had good support from the neighbors.
How has coronavirus affected Memphis Taproom? Obviously, it's a different type of business.
Yeah, it's a little bit tougher. We have most of our kitchen staff back. We're open now Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for food. We're seeing a little comeback of food, but we're probably operating 40 to 50%. Brewery's a little bit different. You can send beer through the window. We're probably operating at 60% of our February numbers. But since it's our first year, we're not really sure where we would be right now if we were in 2019. Hard to say. It's just been really rough for everyone. I have lots of friends in the industry. There are places that are closing that you never expected to close. And at Memphis, we're quite lucky because we have our beer garden on the side. We have a partial part of a tent that we own. And we had, beer garden tables, so we didn't have to a big expenditure to keep moving forward. As you drive around Philadelphia today, you'll see all these streeteries. They're great, but unfortunately, all the restaurants have to go out there, spend the money to try and change what they do. So it's been tough. It's been a tough environment.
How about staffing? I'm assuming you had a furlough or let a lot of people go.
Well, the initial part, what we did is we stayed open for crowers to go. And then my job every day was procuring crowers. I went everywhere from North Jersey through the guys at Tonewood to Love City was instrumental giving us crowers. This is at Memphis for us to be able to move forward a to-go beer program. We were lucky enough to have a crower machine. But going back a few months ago, we got to go ahead to open back up, let people be outside. So right now we probably have about 65 or 70% of our staff back. And the folks that haven't come back are just because they expressed, reasons why they don't want to come back right now.
It's hard to think about it right now since it's 95 degrees out, but from the looks of it, this is all going to kind of stay with us for a while. The numbers in New Jersey are up. Numbers in most states are up. I'm going to assume the numbers in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia will come out as being up. Mostly because I think people got stir crazy, the weather got pretty, they went outside and started hanging out. Right now it's fine, you can have people outside, but come October, come November.
Well, I think October, November still could have been even better maybe than now. But I think past mid-November and on, quite honestly, I'm worried. Like somewhere like Memphis, we may have to go back to being a takeout only program with beer, and just our food is component driven. So being a takeout restaurant just doesn't really, the numbers just don't work. We tried it a little while, but I would be lying to you if I didn't say I was concerned about what's going to go on between November and March or April of next year. And in Philadelphia, we sit in Philadelphia today. I know you come down from the suburbs. At least they can put 25% of people inside. We're not allowed to put anybody inside. Not that we're clamoring to do that anyway.
In either
because
place,
we have
right?
space, either place. Nowhere in Philadelphia. Yeah, so it's scary times.
I think Philadelphia is being smart by holding off on that. I think so many people around the country jumped in, tried to get as much possible back. And if we do hit a second wave, not that we finished the first wave, but if we hit a second wave, it will take out, it's going to take out, countless restaurants.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. There have been a couple places closed. I know a couple have been closed for like a week or two because someone gets COVID there. And then automatically, Garage was closed in Fishtown this weekend. I'm wondering why is Garage closed? Is it, it's kind of weird. Like you don't know what's going on. And there's not a ton of information publicly. In our restaurant, we temp people. We've been lucky. We have not gotten any instances, but also if people aren't feeling well, they just don't come to work. You deal with that in the sense of like, all right, we replace them or we jump in ourselves. But it's scary times, And then one stupid, like someone that gets exposed that isn't being socially distant or washing their hands exposes everybody, and then the whole business has to shut down for at least a few weeks. So you make sure that you're safe.
If all things had remained the same, what was the next step for Human Robot?
Well, we're already working on it. One of my partners and I, Jake, have a building on Kensington Avenue. So there's a project in a different part of Kensington. It's a little bit rougher right now for a 3-floor building renovation. With the first floor is going to be a tap room. Second floor is going to be some community art projects, maybe like a pickling project and a coffee roaster. And then the third floor, like an event space. So we're looking forward with that. We're distributing a little bit of beer out in the suburbs. With the pandemic, there had been a little bit of money to help businesses kind of move forward. So we took advantage of one of those loans and bought a canning line. Today we're paying someone to come in and do mobile canning, which isn't the most conducive, budget-wise. So that's exciting around here, and I think that's kind of our next thing. So far we've been concentrating on making, 8-barrel batches, selling them fresh, enjoying what we do, and trying not to be too stressed by the environment.
Is there anything you'd like to add about Memphis?
No, I mean at Memphis, if you've never been to Memphis, come down. It's a hidden gem in the city, and if you have been, come down. You can help, but you can also help, all my friends in the city, particularly those downtown, Jose Pistolas, Monks, Good Dog Bar, because everybody, is in a situation now that have their rents to pay and their mortgages to pay. We're lucky at Memphis because we own our building and we bought it in 2007. So it enables to keep our expenses down. But support wherever you can. Support your locals.
I didn't realize you owned it. Good. Memphis is one of my favorite spots in all of Philadelphia.
We always enjoy having you there.
So anything you'd like to add about Human Robot?
No, I mean, come to the city, visit us. We're really close by. A lot of great breweries in the area. There's Punch Buggy a couple blocks away. There's Original 13 Cider. There's Yards, and there's Love City, and there's Roy Pitts. There's Triple Bottom. You can come to the city and just enjoy a day of, I would say you do it by Uber, down and back around. But, the emerging brewery scene here is great. And the fact that we're all, this year there have been 4 or 5 that I know of new breweries. There's us, there's Attic in Germantown, making great beer, really great people. There's New Ridge that just opened up in Manayunk. There are all these places. There's After Midnight, I think, still all sour beer program working to get up. And I'd be remiss to say, go down see Kurt at 2nd District and the guys at Brewery R's as well. Come to the city, visit the breweries, come and visit Human Robot, drink some hazy, drink some old school lagers, and enjoy your time and your day here.
Thanks for spending all the time with me today, Ken. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Sorry it's noisy with all the canning going on, but guess what? Now we get to drink fresh cans.
Thanks, Ken. If you'd like to learn more about Human Robot or the Memphis Taproom, you can check out their web pages or their Instagram and Facebook accounts. The links will be in the description below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.